Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network, the number one network in the United States of America, and also Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America. So thank you so much for following Big C Sports, as well as across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Thank you for following Big C Sports. And also Canada, you know we love you, Canada, but there's no one I love more than them good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south, Big C?
It's beautiful down here. We're resonating the way that America should feel. You know, another day of a beautiful month celebrating the women of the world. And
America.
Yeah. And, you know, just a beautiful day. You know, it looks almost like spring here. And I guess with all the women making their voices and thoughts felt.
Oh, yeah.
Mother Nature cooperated also.
Hey, I tell you, that is so funny when we hear about people saying how everything matters. You know, I want to just give credence to something that caught a lot of flack when it happened, and that was called the Million Man March about 20 years ago when Louis Farrakhan organized it with a lot of other civil rights leaders, and they marched on Washington, D.C. There were so many people that said, why are these people marching? They should be at work, or they should stop complaining and start doing something for themselves. Now, when someone holds another march called the Women's March, people are saying the same thing. Why they have to march? They should be at work. Why are they out there complaining? They should just be happy with the way things are. You know, this is America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. But protest and marching are synonymous with being free, Big C. We have the right to be free and express our concerns, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
You know, ironically, when you look at it, it's just like in pro sports talk, and a thing called free agency.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity to do and seek as you choose through various employers or move, you know, whatever environment that you're in.
Yeah.
And so we're saying the same thing right now. No one is out protesting against professional athletes, especially in football right now with free agency starting, that they're desiring no longer to be with their past employer and move on to elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so when these women, Charlton, voice their thoughts and displeasures and things that they see that's not so pro-woman,
yeah.
You know, people are getting mad, and I don't understand that. You know, when we talk about a land of equality,
yeah,
and so often that is a so overused term, because if there was equality in America, we would not see these stances taken by the American public and citizens. And so these women standing up, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing, John.
Oh, yeah.
Not just looking at them, but what they do. It is a very beautiful, poignant thing because it shows the unity of a culture, of, you know, how they go out and they believe and stand for one another.
Yeah.
Women go through so much and have gone through so much throughout American history and never really got or have gotten the appreciation for what they have provided for this country, whether it was during war times or peace times, Charlton. They have been the backbone of America. You know, men have gotten so much credit for things that have occurred in America, but the women, Charlton, of the past, the women of the present, the women of the future, Charlton, are such innovators and such important people in American society.
Yeah.
You can't turn your back on them at any point.
Well, Big C, that makes so much sense. I want to say this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. You know, Big C, it reminds me of some of the things that you just brought up about the world of free agency. And there's been a couple of good old boys shipped across, you know, the pond. I guess Cutler in Chicago decided to say bye to that. And Chicago got rid of him for a backup out of Tampa that backed up Jameis Winston. And then Brock Osweiler, he got let go by Houston. They have a trade with Cleveland. But they're thinking of dealing him, and maybe Tony Romo is going to end up still in the heart of Texas. Yeah.
When you think about it, they paid him $21 million for 1 year work. So you'd have thought he was a coach for the same Super
Yeah, that's probably true.
You get $21 million for throwing 21 touchdowns and 16 interceptions.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have to look at the thought process of the NFL. How you throw money around to somebody who has not been productive. And now, you know, 3 years, 3 different teams, you know, Osweiler is looking at. And
yeah.
it lets you know the thought process of this guy, Charles. 3 years ago, you were on the Super Bowl winning team as a backup quarterback. Make that 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? And 3 years later, you're going to be the quarterback on the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah.
That lets you know what people think of you. That, you go from the outhouse really to the total penthouse.
Yeah.
And you go into a team that started 7 different quarterbacks last year. And you lost your job on the team that you were on, where you were supposed to be the franchise quarterback with a $75 million contract that you signed.
Yeah.
But how the winds change. But the thing that I don't get for the most part, Charlton, how do you keep tossing money after these quarterbacks that have never won you a Super Bowl?
Yeah.
If you look around the NFL and quarterbacks that have won the Super Bowl, they tend to have to fight for money harder than these guys who have this, what they call, Mel Kiper says, a great upside of potential.
Yeah, a great upside of potential. Yep, that's very true, Big C. And it's funny when you bring it in. And again, this is National Women's History Month, and today is it is March the 9th, 2017. And we just love being able to bring sports to the forum. But I also would be remiss if I did not mention that there's been a lot of things going on in our country. Back to the Women's March, and they're talking about equality and how can we get our country, back on track. And we always say that sports, just like the Olympics, Big C, it is something that will work. It's something that people get together and they cheer for the uniform more than they cheer for what religion somebody happens to be or what color someone happens to be. It's always great. But I do want to bring this up because I think it's very important in the world, of our life and keeping reality in the world of sports, because we love sports, but we can't forget the fact that since January, the Jewish community centers throughout the country and in Canada, they've had over 100 bomb threats. Okay, none of these groups that are giving bomb threats to Jewish centers all over the country and in Canada, none of them are from Mexico, and none of them are what they call, people of color. All of this is in-home bred, Big C, is in-home raised. A lot of these guys that follow the Breitbart movement and the Bannon and also what Trump has embraced, but there's never any talk about rounding up these good old boys who are making bomb threats, which is very serious, to Jewish community centers throughout the United States and Canada. I've yet to hear Donald Trump speak on the homegrown threats they could talk about when it comes to terrorism. I think he's dropping the ball on that, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Well, Charles, he has raised so much anti-cultural things in America through his campaign and even in his early presidency, Charles, where he has spun it off on one culture of people.
Yeah.
And that they're criminals, that they're murderers, that they're rapists. But he act like those things did not occur in America until the Hispanics showed up his house.
Yeah.
The Mexicans from Mexico.
Yeah.
These things have always been a part of American culture from Americans.
Now, when you say Americans, just keep in mind, these are white Americans that are accused in making these threats. These hate group guys, these alt-right guys like Breitbart and Bannon. So they're not Hispanic, they're not African American, they're not Native American, they're not Chinese American, they're not Asian American. These are white kids that are giving out these bomb threats, and they all tie it back to this hate speech from the president.
There's been several shootings by white Americans of people of color, from foreign countries that live here that are American citizens. And we don't hear any backlash from Washington talking about these are terrorist attacks.
No, not at all.
White Americans going in shooting people of color in bars and restaurants, on the side of the road. These things have occurred in multiple occasions here in America since the new presidential regime.
Yeah.
Get out of our country, and these people were born here, Charles.
Yeah.
They're just of a different ethnicity and a darker complexion. But you have white Americans going around wreaking havoc on other cultures, and it's not looked at as a big deal in America, Charles.
No.
See if that was those cultures doing it all. Now all of a sudden it's a terrorist attack.
Yeah.
You have to look at it from a point of terror.
Yeah.
These people are living in terror in America, Charles, because white America has the ability to do what they want and hide under the auspices of being white.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they had a mental issue. When a white American goes on a rampage and kills multiple people, it comes down under a mental issue, Charles.
Yeah.
Always, it's classified as mental. How is it that all of a sudden they become mental once they start killing people, Charlton. It's not something that was there before, but it's the classic defense of a white American, whether I'm shooting up a movie theater, whether I'm shooting up a high school, whether I'm shooting up, a restaurant, whatever I'm shooting up. All of a sudden, it's a mental issue. I go into a church, kill everybody in the church. Oh, he had mental problems that people should have recognized the signs.
Yeah.
Okay, but what you're saying, if they recognize the signs on those people who commit those acts, you're saying the rest of white America has mental issues.
Yeah, and that would be the same reason. And ironically, being here in California, the agricultural heartbed of the United States and arguably of the world, Big C, there are a lot of Mexican Americans that are here, and their families have been here for a long time. Now, whether they have their immigration status in hand or not, a lot of these kids are being rounded up and questioned and detained and even separated from their own families. And that's just going under the radar when a lot of these hate groups that are targeting Jewish centers all over the country and in Canada, they're not rounding up white Americans to see if they're part of a hate group or some white nationalist group. But I have people, it's even been all over the news, all over California, where a lot of these kids, they're afraid to even go to school now because they could be detained. It's already happening, even though it's hardly ever on the news. And these people have a right to be Americans as much as anybody else has, but it's all targeted on their skin color. And I think that's horrible that the president won't speak about that with this raids that they're doing all over the country, but especially here in California. And ironically, Big C, when soccer is one of the fastest growing sports in the United States, and we talk about everything on Big C Sports, a lot of these kids that play sports, they happen to be Hispanic. They happen to be, from Mexico, Mexican Americans. There are people who are feeling pressure in the sports leagues that if they get kids on their programs, that they're going to be harassed. That's not what America's all about, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I go back years ago, and I remember watching on the news that you guys had a gentleman out there in California, I believe his name was Cesar Chavez.
Oh, yeah, Julio Cesar Chavez.
Who led a protest for equality for farm workers.
Yeah.
That they would be able to have certain rights. And we looked at all these marches in America, these protests, since the current regime has been taken over in the White House.
Yeah.
I wonder how would the farmers, and you talk about California being the #1 farming region in the world. I wonder what would happen if mid-harvest all the Hispanic workers went on a week protest or strike versus going out picking these produces that they have in California. What would happen to the national markets economically?
Yeah.
What would happen to America's food table, Charlton, if this fresh produce could not be picked and processed by these Hispanic workers? This is the thing that America has not looked at. You eat comfortably, you eat economically because of these Hispanic workers, okay? We get that. When you look at all the lawn services around, and I know you never cut your grass.
Sometimes people do it for me, Big Z.
So when we look at these various things, Charlton, that these services that are provided, and one of the things people need to understand about these Hispanic workers, and a lot of them that are undocumented,
Yeah.
they put more into the economic system of America than what they take out.
Yeah.
Because you got to look at it. They don't qualify for Social Security.
Yeah.
Okay? They don't qualify for certain, endowment benefits
Yeah.
that Americans receive. But they have to pay taxes on what they make.
Yeah.
They have to pay into grocery stores when they walk in and spend their money, so they're paying taxes again. They buy a car, they're paying taxes, they're paying insurance. Whatever service they buy, whether it's electricity, whether it's a cell phone or whatever, they're paying into the American economy. So when people say that they're just here and they're leeching off of America, you need to understand the economics that they put back into local communities, into the state, and into the national economy, Charlton.
Yeah.
So they're putting in more than what they get out. And I beg to differ, Charlton, and the backlash we're getting about this is from white America.
Yeah.
Look how many white Americans are on entitlement programs versus Hispanics that are on entitlement programs, Charlton. You see a huge discrepancy.
Yeah, and that's a shame because I work with a couple of sports leagues up here in Northern California, and half of California, which if you put together all of our domestic product and the money that's spent out of California, it would rank number 7 in the world, Big C, and half of California's population happens to be Spanish speaking. So without even being flippant about this, that puts about half of California's population under some type of, security blanket, or they're kind of threatened, even psychically threatened, because a lot of kids are having a hard time even functioning in school because they've heard about relatives being picked up and detained. Now, the weird thing that happens, and I want to touch on this and tie them both together in the sports program, if you look at the heat that's being put on the gymnastics CEO, I think his name is Steve Penn, for the sexual abuse scandals that's going on. Well, unfortunately, this guy, I don't even know what happened, so I can't speak with anything other than I guess a jury's going to decide. But he's being charged already, and he's forced to resign over a sexual abuse scandal. Now, the president can't speak on that because Donald Trump himself has a half dozen allegations of sexual abuse himself. Okay, and we know what he said on tape about grabbing a woman by the vagina, and he can get away with it. And the guy that interviewed him was the one that was fired. They didn't fire Donald Trump. There was no big pushback on Donald Trump, not by the Republicans and some Democrats, but it hasn't stopped him. So the thing I ask you with this, Big C, with these people that are being deported and rounded up in question, whether they're going to soccer sports leagues or not, or if they're going to a football or basketball game, or even to school, okay, even to school, none of them, if they have any type of allegations of sexual abuse going on toward them, it wouldn't be the first time. The president can't even speak on that, and he's the one that signed this law to get people out of the country. There are women, they're already complaining that things are happening to them that are illegal. POTUS can't speak on that, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you look at the number of rape allegations in America, which is a very heinous crime, Charlton, as low as you can get, against the women of America. And you look at the number one culture that is committing them. And they commit them not just once, Charlton, on multiple occasions. And so many of them go unreported.
Yeah, they're afraid.
Well, it's not reported, so no, it's there, but they have to live under the embarrassment, Charlton, of what will happen, because people will try to criminalize the woman.
Yeah.
In this situation, Charlton, that the guy really did nothing wrong, and that's what's wrong with the white American society, is that they want to decriminalize the criminal for committing this heinous act, and so often you hear, well, she must have wanted it.
Yeah.
No woman wants to be assaulted, Charlton.
Well, see,
You get that from white society. That's where that saying was built. And I'm not being racist because guys got to look at themselves and they've heard and seen the same thing, saying she must have wanted. We've seen that in press releases.
yeah, like Donald Trump calls it locker room talk, which is not.
Yeah, locker room talk. But for a woman to have to go under this embarrassment, and then they want to look at her various history of other things. They don't scrutinize the guy's history.
Yeah.
But they scrutinize the woman. They berate her in so many ways that even if she wins, Charles, she loses. Because her life has been turned inside out and made a piece of trash by some lawyer seeking money
What?
to get off his guilty client.
Yeah.
Not allegedly, but guilty client, even when they have DNA evidence, Charles.
Yeah.
And you think about how many black men have been convicted over the years without DNA evidence because allegedly somebody said something.
Yeah.
But you can have DNA evidence against a white client, Charles, and then you put the blame on the woman.
Well, see, even with that, Big C, because it's all over the paper about Steve Penn and how he's forced to resign over the abuse scandal, and then you have POTUS who took out that ad several years ago about the New York Five when he wanted to have these young black men who were innocent, had them put to death. He wanted that. He advertised for that. This is the same knucklehead that these women, a half a dozen women, came out and accused him of sexual assault, and he threatened to sue them to keep them intimidated and quiet, Big C, and that unfortunately has stopped a lot of people. So the question again is, why isn't POTUS's name all over the newspapers the same way Steve Penn is? At least POTUS had it with his own words. And then it was backed up by these women that came out, Big C. Not even a mention of it anymore, Big C. It just kind of like the rain. It came and went, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Financial power, Charlton. You're going to have certain news outlets that are not going to say anything critical or negative about this individual, even though you know what he did and it was accurate about the accusations that were made on him. You talk about this doctor from the Olympics.
Yeah.
Well, from the U.S. Gymnastics Organization.
Yeah.
That he was assaulting these young females. And this is women's month. And these young females, because they had the desire, Charlton, to be in the Olympics, to compete in the World Games,
Yeah.
that if they said something, that they could be dismissed dismissed from the team.
Yeah, they had no power. Yeah.
He would hold that over with the power he had. He would say, well, she's just not recovering from this injury, so I don't think that she should put out there to perform. He had that power over these young girls, Charles. And it was allowed, it was like the Penn State scenario with Jerry Sandusky.
Yeah.
When you had collusion, he wasn't the only guy that knew this was going on, Charles. He's the one that was charged because he was a doctor.
Yeah.
But when you got this many perverted all white men in one place, Charles, he's not the only one doing it. He's not the only one involved.
Yeah, and that's, yeah.
There was a cover-up at the highest degree of the Olympic Medical Committee, Charles. And it needs to be more than one person that goes to prison in this scenario. Because you harm these young girls, Charles, and no one says anything about it. You didn't do it once, Charles. You did it over decades, okay?
Yeah.
Decades that you were this sick, perverted individual.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, too, because, it's about keeping women safe. This is National Women's Month, and most media won't talk about it because they really don't care about women, other than if they look cute enough to put on TV, big C. That's what they seem to be.
They don't talk about it because the guy that committed the crime looks like them. Okay?
Yeah, that's true.
If you talk about it, and the guy that committed the crime looks like you, then people start looking at you also. Well, you're talking about it, so, why should we look at you any different?
Well, yeah.
You covered up over all this time? Did you have something to do with it? Were you part of this, collective cover-up?
Yeah.
And so this word, Charles, when the national media that has had access, when you think about the access that ESPN has to everything, okay?
Yeah.
This is a worldwide leader. They know when a athlete has gas.
Yeah. I've heard of that before.
So you're going to tell me that they don't know something that's going on like this? Especially the Olympics. Think about how big this is.
Yeah.
The Olympics, it's a worldwide organization.
Yeah.
And so these people that are involved, the U.S. even has a training center in Colorado.
Yeah.
That, they set up for these athletes to be at. So where's the security of this place, Charles? And you think about it, when you have these young girls, where are all the people that are supposed to monitor these young girls? Where's the chaperones, the coaches at?
Yeah.
You're going to tell me that you're releasing some young girl into a room with a medical physician, a male, okay? A male by herself?
Yeah.
And that's okay, that's acceptable. What man in America, what woman in America is going to let your daughter that's 15 years old, 14 years old, go into the room with a physician, male physician, by herself? You're not going to allow that.
Yeah.
But this is what the chaperones and the U.S. Olympic Committee allowed. So when you look at that, Charles, they are all accessories after the fact to these sexual assaults that were occurring on these young potential Olympic and young female athletes, Charles.
Yeah, and see,
you can't stop with the doctors. You got to get everybody.
That's very true. And so that's the reason I want to bring it up again, because in honor of women, National Women's History Month, I know a lot of people, they're so focused on, what backup quarterback is going to get $20 million, or what backup quarterback that's being released by one team is going to be the savior for another team, and he was just fired. How can a guy go from being fired to be the savior of an organization? And that's what they're all playing this game on, even on ESPN, and we get into some of it too, but I would be remiss, I would be a part of the problem if I did not point out the hypocrisy and when it comes to men and women in our society, and how there's too many women that don't have a voice. And we know the major sports companies, they're not going to say anything because they just want to appease the guys to talk about, who's going to get $10 million now? Is this guy going to sign a 2-year, $30 million deal? Yeah.
When you talk about money like that, Charles, and I'm not making light of this situation. Erin Andrews, broadcaster for Fox, reporter.
Yeah.
She sued a hotel chain because a man looked through her peek hole and saw her in her underwear and videoed it, okay?
Yeah.
She got $75 million from a hotel chain.
And what's the woman who's battered get when she's beaten up by law enforcement or someone like that?
She wasn't physically touched. She's saying that she was mentally violated, is what she was saying.
Yeah.
And so her mental violation was worth $75 million.
So if that's the...
What they're saying is that these young girls that have been on the Olympic platform for the last couple of decades and physically assaulted, not just looked at, but physically assaulted by this doctor, that they have no value. This is what we look at, is that women have no value. These young girls have no value. And I'm not saying anything negative against Erin Andrews.
Right.
But Andrews worth $75 million because somebody looked at her, okay?
Yeah.
On the other side of a wall where she was protected, she was not physically assaulted.
Right.
But these young girls who had to go in there and adhere and withstand these sexual misconduct by this doctor. We're talking about physical, not looking at him weird. He did that all the time anyway.
Yeah.
But putting his hands on them, Charlton, and doing things that were unconstitutional, and it's not worth anything.
Yeah, and
I think American society has it all wrong that you devalue the value of a woman when it comes to sports, when it comes to society, Charlton. And this is what we talked about is equal compensation for women.
Yeah.
That these young girls that will be scarred for life.
For life.
Who goes out there, she has no problem being around men that are half naked.
Right.
You know, she look at them, it's okay.
Yeah.
But if you look at her half naked, it's worth $75 million.
And see, the point,
I don't get it.
The point you bring up is if she's worth $75 million because someone looked at her, what are these women worth that Donald Trump brags about grabbing by the vagina, and the ones that came forward to say, yeah, he did that, he threatened to sue them? If she's worth $75 million for looking at her, what are some of these women that are not well known, what are they worth for being scarred by whether it's Donald Trump or the people dealing with the Olympics? What are they worth, Big C, in the eyes of a jury? And see, no one's going to bring that up because, unfortunately, they just don't care as much outside of maybe 1 week of running that story. But in National Women's History Month, I just want to bring that up. And I also want to say that this segment is sponsored by Big C Sports and also Sports Insurance. You know, boys and girls sports is a $1 billion industry, and girls and boys sports is the foundation of that $1 billion industry. We just talked about what happened in the world of gymnastics. People have to be protected. They also need sports insurance. We do it through Ben and Mark, and we also do it for professional teams, collegiate teams, also high school, and your mom and pop soccer leagues. Tweet out to Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. And so, Big C, as we get back into this world of what's going on today, everybody's gathered around their TVs, and they're all on the TV set saying who's going to get drafted where, who's going to get traded where, as if that's more important than the health of women on this month, especially. And we talked about one of the biggest names out there that was always a bust in your eyes because you called it before they even gave him the chance at Denver. You called it. Brock Osweiler even pushed the women a couple of times down in Texas last year, and that's when Denver cut him. He went down to Houston. Now they've released him to Cleveland, and it looks like they're trying to hold on to him for 2 draft picks. I think they owe $16 million if they take him. He's not worth that kind of money. So why such an emphasis put on something like this when the guys like the New England Patriots, they're not putting any time into guys like that don't start and that can't even get off the bench, Big C? Why so much emphasis put on where he or Tony Romo is going to go? Romo hasn't won a game in 2 years. In the last 2 games he played, and he lost against Green Bay at Lambeau Field, and also when Jerry Jones mistakenly put him in the game against Philadelphia, that killed the momentum for the Dallas Cowboys this year. He's 0-2 in his last 2 games that he's played, Big C. Why is he so prize-worthy?
Well, it's that white privilege, Charlton, when you look at the quarterback. It's like, he's always had the potential to be a great player. And when he's healthy, it's this. But when he's healthy, it's been 3 years since he's been healthy.
Yeah.
So, that means that you're not expecting much from him. But the move with Osweiler today, Charlton, that was made to Cleveland was to clear the way for Romo to go to Texas.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to Houston. He's already in Texas, but he's going to the Texans. He will be, on the Texans roster no later than Saturday.
Yeah.
A deal will be made with the Texans for him to be on that roster no later than Saturday. So he really doesn't. He can commute to work every day. So
yeah, he can.
Jerry Jones will let him use his private jet to get back and forth daily to work. So he doesn't have to leave home.
You think he'll let him use it? Hey,
he will. It'll be part of the deal that Jerry will fly to work every day.
Hey, from what I understand, when you take that star off the side of your helmet, Jerry Jones say, "Hey, you're on your own, man." So Jerry Jones, after he takes the star off, I don't think he'd be one of his prodigal kids, Big C. But I just want to get your thoughts on this one. Billionaires own NFL football teams, okay? Why are billionaire owners looking for salvaged cars? Do you see any billionaire that's going out to the used car lot trying to buy a car that's been salvaged? That means it's been wrecked. It's been in an accident. It's had, back surgery twice. It's had other issues. I hear people trying to say, where can the Chicago Bears get Cutler? Who's going to take him next? Who's going to take someone like Romo? and it just doesn't make any sense. Even a guy like Cousins, they're talking about giving him $24 million, and I say, for what, Big C? They haven't even been to a Super Bowl. Your thoughts?
Well, you're going to give Cousins $24 million. He went in today actually and asked for a trade because the Washington Redskins, Charlton, are the first team in NFL history to lose two 1,000-yard receivers at the same time.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Garcon left and Jackson left. Garcon went to San Francisco, Jackson went to Tampa Bay today.
Yeah.
So that meant that they were just chanting with this organization that they would rather go elsewhere. And so now, Cousins is starting to realize it wasn't me that was accumulate all those yards. Those receivers that are gone.
Yeah.
Now, if I had nobody to throw to, my career basically is over after next season because if I go from 5,000 yards to 3,000 yards, people are going to realize that I'm not that good of a quarterback that I just can't play with anybody. Jay Cutler doesn't care. He's made so much money, he just doesn't care.
Yeah.
He's a good old boy from the South that, I got all I need. I need a pickup and a place to lay in the shade. That's mine.
Yeah, that's true, Big C.
He's doing okay. And you look at Mike Glennon,
Yeah.
who was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers out of Rutgers, who Rutgers has never done anything in college football anyway.
No, that's not true, Big C. They expanded their stadium, Big C. That's doing something.
He started at Rutgers, went to North Carolina State, Charlton.
Yeah.
And, really, didn't set the world on fire, and it proved it because he was a second-round draft pick, and Tampa turned right around and drafted Winston in the first round the following year.
Yeah.
And so, you're sitting on the bench, and so he got an Osweiler-type contract, Charlton.
For sitting the bench.
Sitting on the bench, and you're not playing, and all of a sudden the team gives you $47 million over 3 years.
Wow.
For doing what? $47 million over 3 years for holding a damn clipboard. I played the wrong position. I should have been on the field.
Hey, I'm telling you, you know who's warming up that shoulder right now, Banksy, and doing push-ups and wind sprints. You got guys like Dan Marino, who also didn't win a playoff game last year. Joe Montana, he didn't win a playoff game last year. Brett Favre, I even hear he's turning down those TV commercials. He's trying to get warmed up. And so all these guys that have not won a playoff game last year, and they have to be looking at the TV saying, what in the world's coming to where guys don't even win, and they get more money than some of these guys made in their entire careers? Big C, your thoughts?
Through free agency, Charlton, and that meant that you were unemployed if you signed a free agency contract somewhere. You got starting quarterbacks in the NFL that are in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That are not making as much money as these guys that are going through free agency. Derek Carr last year set Raider franchise record.
Oh, yeah.
And he's probably making $2 million next year, John.
Yeah.
And there's not a quarterback in free agency right now that is good as Derek Carr is in Kansas City. All the talk about Alex Smith being out of Kansas City and they're bringing in Romo or whoever, at least Alex Smith, he's going to start next week.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
And he'll most likely finish the game that he does start. And he has been a consistent winner in the NFL. Has he won a Super Bowl? No. But he has constantly made it to the playoffs, so that speaks credence by itself. You look at his win percentage, Charlton, since he's been under Andy Reid, even under Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
It's way greater than what Tony Romo has had. So how is Tony Romo a better quarterback, Charlton? And he's played more games under those two coaches.
And I think, go ahead, Z. Go ahead, C.
So as I look at this free agent market, which is hard and hard to understand for the old Grizzly guy, who played the game when we had to sell soda pop cans,
Yeah, I understand.
We look at the guys now, and we're not jealous of what they make. We're proud.
No, I'm jealous, Big Z. I don't care about being. I'm jealous. I want that kind of money, Big Z.
But the careers are much shorter, and it's so violent. But the justification of management.
Yeah.
To pay out those type of monies and not wanting to do anything for the old time players, Charlton. People say, well, you're upset because you didn't make that kind of money. No, it's not that I'm upset that I didn't make that kind of money. I'm upset because the league has fought not to help out trailblazers, the players who set the foundation.
Yeah.
Who fought when you did not make money, Charlton. When the league average in 1983 is salary of an NFL player in 1983 was $123,000. Trust me, people, $123,000. That was the average NFL salary in 1983, okay?
Wow.
If you go back to 1970, Charlton, think about it. Not that far ago. It was a long time ago, but it's not that long ago.
Yeah.
You go back to let's say 1971, was that 50 years ago?
Yeah.
40 years ago.
40 years ago, yeah.
40 years ago, you could get an NFL player 40 years ago for $17,000 a season. $17,000 a season. 40 years ago, you could get an NFL player. You can't get him for that for a game now, Charlton. You have to pay him twice that much to play in a game now.
That's
what you could get an NFL player 40 years ago for an entire season.
And I know what you're saying, and we talk about inflation and all that, Jeff, but just think about this for all the people that are glued to the TV set to see where's Brock Osweiler going to go, where's Jay Cutler going to go, where's Romo going to go. Will Osweiler or Cutler ever be Hall of Famers, Big C? Your thoughts?
Will they be Hall of Famers, Charlton?
Yeah, will they be Hall of Famers?
What kind of Hall of Fame are you talking about?
That's exactly it. Because guys like Joe Montana, Dan Marino, Warren Moon, and Jim Kelly, Troy Aikman, these guys made nowhere near the kind of money. And, something's going on in the world of sports, and I'm all for guys making money. I mean, if whatever happens to someone, if they're smart enough to get it, just like Jerry Maguire, show me the money with Cuba Gooding Jr., they're going to get the money. But I just see the irony. There's only one quarterback out there that I think has been to the Super Bowl that's out there among who should get this kind of money. I mean, sometimes you got to pay people based on what they've done, not based on what they could do. And Colin Kaepernick, who's not even mentioned in any of this, they're taking guys off the bench that didn't even play and trying to put $30 million over 2 years in their pocket. Here's a guy that went to the Super Bowl, has a winning record when he had good coaching, and there's hardly any talk of him. Also, Vince Young signed on. He signed a contract also just about a month ago, Big C. And so maybe he'll get some push, but I don't hear much talking about those guys. But I just want to get your thoughts on this. I heard one of the pundits saying that Tony Romo instantly makes someone a playoff caliber team, instantly makes someone a Super Bowl caliber team, irrespective of who he goes to. And from when I looked on Google, I don't think Tony Romo has even seen not only a Super Bowl, but he's not even appeared in an NFC championship game, and that's in his 12-year career history. Does that make any sense, Big C?
Well, Charlton, you talked about Vince Young signing. He signed today with the Saskatchewan Roughriders of that country that you butchered.
Oh, Canada. Oh, I love Canada.
Yeah, he signed today with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, trying to revitalize his career. But this is what we're talking about. Vince Young has a winning record in the NFL as a starter. I believe it was 33-16.
33-16.
As a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
Now, I look at these three quarterbacks today that everybody's putting so much emphasis on. Brock Osweiler, Tony Romo, Mike Glennon. Mike Glennon does not have a winning record as a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Period.
Jay Cutler does not have a winning record as a quarterback, as a starting quarterback in the NFL. I couldn't even say that Tony Romo
No.
as a winning record. He's got to be close to 500.
Yeah.
But Vince Young has almost a 65% winning percentage as a starting quarterback in the NFL. He has to go to Canada to seek out employment jobs.
They did the same thing to Warren Moon back in the day, Big C. Warren Moon had to go up there, too.
Well, you think about the last 5 quarterbacks, Charlton, that's been inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame, okay?
Yeah.
The last 5 that's been inducted to the NFL Hall of Fame. What current quarterback in the NFL beyond Tom Brady has a better pedigree than any of these guys? And these guys didn't make money like the guys now that are moving around through free agency.
Yeah.
I go back to Flynn, Matt Flynn, when he was with the Green Bay a couple years ago and signed with Seattle when they drafted Russell Wilson. Seattle gave him $15 million for being a backup quarterback.
A backup quarterback.
Because he had one great game, all of a sudden he was going to be this great star. He couldn't even make it through the preseason in Seattle because you had this young African-American quarterback that had taken Seattle to 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and when we look around, you are throwing money, good money, after these guys that cannot play. Robert Griffin, went to the playoffs, but he suffered a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
Since his rookie year. And he had to struggle to get a $14 million 2-year contract from Cleveland. And I'm not saying that that's chump change.
Right.
But Mike Glennon's been on the bench in Tampa for the last 2 years, not taking a snap, and you give him 3 years, $47 million, Charlton?
Yeah.
That is a huge discrepancy in race and finances, even in the NFL.
Well, Big C, we always talk about it because it's real sports talking, and that's important to bring up. And I hope that everyone who has the opportunity to play whatever they want to play, whatever sport, whether it's Canada, whether it's the NFL or overseas, Big C.
Let me
Yeah.
a little bit more on that, Charles.
Yeah.
The last two African-American quarterbacks that have gone to the Super Bowl, okay?
Yeah.
Russell Wilson and Cam Newton.
Yeah.
All right? Gone to the Super Bowl. Have had their teams in multiple playoff runs.
You mentioned Colin Kaepernick with it too, Big C, because he was there too when he had a team around him.
But Mike Glennon will make the same amount of money as Russell Wilson
And Newton, yeah.
And Brock Osweiler made more money than both of them did last season.
Yeah.
Okay? Brock Osweiler last season made more money than Cam Newton or Russell Wilson, two quarterbacks that have competed, African-American quarterbacks that have competed in the Super Bowl. Also more money than Colin Kaepernick, who's also been in the Super Bowl. When we think about the last 5 Super Bowls, 3 African-American quarterbacks were there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And starters. And last year, Brock Osweiler made more money, $21 million, Charlton, than any of the 3. Okay? You think about that. So when you're talking about value and devalue of a player, an African-American quarterback can go to the Super Bowl and a backup quarterback can make more money than him.
Is that amazing?
How is that in professional sports?
So let me ask you this question, because we just got through Black History Month, and obviously, I appreciate Fox, even though you brought it up. I don't think it's ever been done before, where they acknowledge the historically black schools that produce, Hall of Famers before Super Bowl 51, and that was a really touching, tribute, I'd say. And the league is 75% African American. But what's going on right now in the world of television? It's just like the Donald Trump administration. They keep telling you what you want to hear. Even if you're dumb, if they tell you enough, you might start believing it, Big C. Yeah, well, that's what they want to hear. Yeah, the alternative facts. So Goodell's right there. If black men went on a strike, okay, if they went on a strike, the NFL would collapse. That's just a fact. But they're the least highest paid when it comes to their glamour boy position, which is the quarterback. If the black men in the league, it happened in Dallas when Jerry Jones would not pay Emmitt Smith. And I know people say, yeah, well, why you got to bring that up? If 75% means if you go out to your car and 75% of your tires are on the flat, or maybe somebody even stole them. I mean, the Escalade has locked hubcaps, but if somebody stole a lesser vehicle, if they took 70, maybe a lesser car. If you took 3 out of the 4 tires, would that car run, Big C? Would it run down the highway?
I'm not sure it's going to run out of the driveway.
Okay, so why is that one tire more valuable than the other 3 that make it run? And that's what's happening in the league, because a lot of these black quarterbacks, they're afraid to come out and speak for themselves. But I see this push by the media. They want to try to say these guys don't have what it takes. They take a white guy that doesn't even play and make him a franchise quarterback, and they take the dominant African-American quarterbacks and they try to marginalize them or say they don't have the footwork or they lack the ability to throw the ball from standing in the pocket. Whatever garbage that's been going on back since the 70s and 60s, Big C. And it's happening again today when Cutler is someone looking for Cutler who can't win a game. I think he has 1 playoff career win in his history of playing an NFL quarterback. I think Tony Romo only has 2. Yeah.
And Tony Romo, okay?
Yeah.
Tim Tebow, who's not even in the NFL, in his brief career, had as many playoff wins as Jay Cutler and Tony Romo.
Yeah.
It's like when black quarterbacks, last year Colin Kaepernick had to restructure his contract to stay on the team, okay?
Yeah.
Had to restructure his contract. This year, just a couple days ago, Tyrod Taylor, who's been the starter in Buffalo for the last 2 years.
Hey, he's a stud.
Had to restructure his contract, and they're talking about trading.
Yeah.
This is a guy that's been a proven starter, that's been over 500 as a starting quarterback in the NFL over the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
If he had to restructure his contract, and they're talking about trading him, I think they gave him a 4-year deal last year, Charlton, was like $68 million.
Yeah.
He was a starting quarterback that had won 10 games, and he could only get a 4-year, $68 million deal. Here's Mike Glennon got $47 million
Ouch.
from being a backup for 3 years.
So yeah,
Brock Osweiler on a 4-year deal got what, 75?
like $73 million.
$73 million, and he was a backup, but a black quarterback that's been started in the NFL, 2 of them in the last 2 seasons have had to restructure and take less money for being starters.
Well, and I think that pushback is coming from ownership. I don't know if they need the Rooney Rule for equal pay. You know, women had this march yesterday all over the world. They just want equal pay, equal opportunity. And I know a lot of the black guys out there, and especially the analysts, they're not going to say anything, but Big C Sports will. I would hope that the league would make it known if you get paid based on what you've done. You know, based on what you've done on the field, not based on what you look like in the eyes of the owner. And of course, if you own a team, you can pay somebody what you want. But it's blatant discrimination when it comes to signing guys to multi-million-dollar contracts. It's a black and white issue because they still want that white eugenic look to be the quarterback, even if they lose. I mean, you just pointed that out, Big C.
Wouldn't it Dallas and Tony Romo to restructure his contract, but they asked their best player on defense, and he's white.
Yeah.
To restructure his contract to take $5 million less. He's their best defensive player over the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Tremendous linebacker, number 50 for Dallas. But Tony Romo, who hadn't played, was not actually asked to restructure his contract. I'll take the $26 million, Tony. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You know, he's not even being asked to restructure his contract right now to facilitate a trade.
Yeah.
Wherever they send him to, they got to eat this money that Dallas put on the table.
Well,
so, you know, but this is the discrepancy as far as how players are treated in the NFL. And people will say, well, you know, black players are doing well.
Yeah.
Making more money than they ever made before. So it's the white players.
Yeah.
It's just like in golf. White golfers are making more money because of Tiger Woods than they ever made in the history of the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
But no one is out there saying, well, because of Tiger Woods, these white golfers now are becoming multi-millionaires. Justin Johnson made $1.6 million last week in Mexico last weekend.
Yeah.
That was because of the Tiger Woods ripple effect.
But did
Tiger came into the game, that the money's escalated in golf.
Yeah.
If Tiger Woods had never came along, that tournament that Justin Johnson won on Saturday, Johnson, would have been $600,000.
Well, let me ask you one more thing as we get ready to close out our segment for today, Big C. You know, I really appreciate the knowledge that you speak with when it comes to the history of the black quarterback. I think Al Davis was one of the first coaches to hire. Yeah.
Out of Texas Southern, the first African-American quarterback drafted in the first round, 1966, by the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah.
And Al Davis, and he came under so much blasphemy by the media and everyone else, because how can you draft this black quarterback and put him out there in a leadership role of a team, and we know that they don't have the mental capacity to operate in the NFL at that level and direct the team. You know, that's when his career was scrutinized under Johnson. Even though he could play the game, that he was beat up so much mentally, okay, by everyone, and he was always asked that question that a white quarterback would never ask. And I don't care how strong you are, it bothers any individual. I mean, if you ask Trump about what he really does, see how long before he cracks. But you don't ask him a tough question.
Yeah, that's true, Big C. And when people doubt what we're saying, I look back to James Harris back in the day too. Same thing with him when he played back in the day for the Steelers, Big C. And also there was a Joe Gilliam. I think it's Joe Gilliam. I beg your pardon on that. Joe Gilliam. But the same thing is happening on the college level. Deshaun Watson out of Clemson, he reminds me out of Cardell Jones out of Ohio State. They both won national championships. Ironically, they both won national championships beating Alabama, Big C. And these guys are being relegated to saying, well, they don't have the fundamentals, or they lack certain ability to stand in the pocket. You know, Nick Saban didn't find any fundamentals lacking when Jones went over Alabama back in the day for over 300 yards passing in the national championship. And I'm sure he doesn't see any fundamentals lacking in Deshaun Watson that threw for over 1,000 yards combined in 2 games over the #1 defense in college football, Big C. That's Alabama. All of a sudden, you get the guys like Kuiper and who are the other guys that praise the white guys. They're saying, well, Deshaun Watson really doesn't have. He's not really ready, but they were kissing the butt of Jeff Goff or Jared Goff that got signed with the Rams and made multiple millions of dollars.
The kid out of North Carolina, Johnson. Think about this.
Yeah.
The quarterbacks that Alabama has beaten the crap out of over the last 4 or 5 years in the NFL. I mean, in college football.
Yeah, college football.
Have gone on and been drafted high in the NFL. But the quarterbacks that have beat the crap out of Alabama, you know, these so-called experts beat them down. I mean, go back to Cam Newton.
Yeah.
He destroyed Alabama.
Yeah.
And everybody said, well, you know, he's not ready. Everybody was saying that your buddy there in San Francisco, Gabbard,
Yeah.
was the better pro prospect. You know, that than Cam Newton. Even McElroy, the quarterback that was at Alabama during that time.
Yeah.
Total NFL, he was more NFL ready than Cam Newton.
Yeah. Well, that you got to blame that on the moonshine, Big C. That wasn't his fault. That's that moonshine you good boys give him, okay?
So when you look at that, you look at the quarterback that beat Alabama a couple of years ago that played at Auburn and played in the national championship game against Florida State.
Yeah.
I can't remember the kid's name. Wore number 14.
Yeah.
He's a defensive back in the NFL now, Jonathan.
Yeah.
A defensive back. You can win the SEC, okay? You can win the toughest division, as they say, conference in college football, but you can't play in the NFL. But you look at there was a kid that played at LSU, Metzenberger.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
He never won the conference championship.
No.
And he was there at the same time when the kid from Auburn was there.
Yeah.
But he played in the NFL as a quarterback.
Yeah.
So, this is how people are judged. If Alabama can crush you, then you're an NFL-type quarterback.
Yeah.
If you beat Alabama, well, you got some
You lack the fundamentals. And see, ironically, in the final 5 minutes, basically, the same thing happened to the great Warren Moon, who threw for as much yards as anybody in the history of pro football. Went up to Canada, threw for lots of yards up there, and the same thing in the NFL. But he was marginalized by the people who run the status quo. They just want a white guy to be behind the center. And that's a fact. I'm not saying the league needs to look into it. The owners, all of them are Caucasian. They're going to hire the guy that looks like their son, perhaps, Big C. But I just think in the world of money and influence, just like these women marched all over the world, if enough black men had the gall to say we're being discriminated against in the workforce the same way Dr. King did when they had the voice boycott, and they said we're not going to do it unless it's equal pay for equal productivity. If 75% of this league that's run by black men would have realized you're being marginalized, you're not being paid the equal money, and I don't care how many people get on TV and get all glory-eyed over some guy that didn't even start and they want to make him a $100 million quarterback. If they had that type of wherewithal and that type of organization that Colin Kaepernick started with Black Lives Matter, money talks. You hit people in the pocketbook, they'll start paying attention. But if you're okay with the status quo just being marginalized, having this media blast you, tell you that you can beat kids in college, but all of a sudden when you get to the pros, you're not as good as them. I mean, that's what they're doing to Deshaun Watson. They're doing the same to the kid at Louisville, the same thing to the quarterback at Notre Dame. I think it's so blaringly true what they're doing. They're trying to marginalize again the black quarterback now, the same way they did against Warren Moon, but you're only going to hear that on Big C Sports in the last 3 minutes, Big C.
Look at the number of white quarterbacks, former white quarterbacks, that are analysts in the NFL now.
Almost all of them.
When you look at these guys, the Troy Aikman, who's a Hall of Famer, you look at Phil Simms, who's a Hall of Famer, you look at Rich Gannon, who spent over a decade and a half in the NFL, and many other former quarterbacks. And they're sitting there having to broadcast these games of these guys that I know they envy financially. Okay?
Yeah.
What the guy is making now, they're like, damn, I won Super Bowls. Or I won Super Bowls.
Super Bowls don't count, Jim Plunkett.
And this guy hasn't won as many games in his career as I won in my best season.
Yeah.
And he's making more money than I made in my career.
Yeah.
How do you justify paying this guy? And I'm looking at coverage from the box as I'm calling the game, and I'm recognizing and wondering why he's not seeing what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Is he worried about how much money he got, or is he worried about studying the game?
Well, I think
that's what it comes down to now, Jonathan, is that the student of the game is gone. It's all about the financier of the game.
Yeah. And I think when they say, well, Madison Avenue, how would they pay for tickets if we had black guys? I mean, of course they would. Look at the teams that have won. And I just think we're the only show that will bring it up. You probably won't even hear anything about the financial discrepancy.
Answer this question, John.
Yeah.
In the NCAA basketball tournament, which we have March Madness going on right now, and Kansas lost in the first round of their tournament.
Yeah, TCU.
Was knocked off.
Yeah, but TCU.
In Houston last year.
Yeah.
At Reliance Stadium where they had the Super Bowl. There's 75,000 people in that stadium last year, Johnson, for the national championship game between North Carolina and Villanova. One of the more epic national championship games of all time, okay?
Yeah.
I saw 10 starters on the floor, Johnson.
Yeah.
All of them African American.
Yeah.
And we had 75,000 people in the stands, Johnson.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me that at least 55,000 of them were not white?
Yeah. Yeah.
And broadcast crews, Johnson?
Yeah.
Kind of white also?
Yeah.
And everybody else, the network that kind of white.
Yeah.
So when you say Madison Avenue is affected, no, it's not. Madison Avenue wants the best product, Charlton, that they can see.
Yeah.
That's what Madison Avenue is. And there was another basketball championship last year, Charlton, that was played.
Yeah, the Big C championship, the big city of Cleveland.
Cleveland and Golden State.
Yeah.
When I looked at the tip-off, Charlton, of that first game, I saw 10 African-American athletes again.
Yeah.
Were the television ratings now? No. Were the commercials being played?
No.
Yes. So when you say that African-Americans in Madison Avenue does not want them, no, they desire them, Charlton.
Yeah. Well, see.
Desire them.
Well, see. You know, just keep in mind. You know, we talk about the Trump administration, how everybody's Caucasian. I mean, other than Ben Carson, and he thinks he's Caucasian too, Big C. But everybody's Caucasian in the Trump administration. And these same CEOs that draft NFL players, I just want to ask I love the sport, and diversity works when you're honest about it. But when a guy is very dominant in college, and he happens to be black, and he's a quarterback, it's the same garbage that went on against Warren Moon and a lot of other good players that were dominant athletes in college, and when it was time to get paid for the labor, they found a way to say, well, maybe he's not smart enough, or he's not strong enough, or he can't stand in the pocket. You know, he runs too much. He's too athletic. They want a guy that sucks, and, you know, based on the record, you know, they don't win, and they want to make them a franchise game. In the last few minutes, Big C, I just want to get your thoughts. At some point in time, if TV and these NFL programs are going to do, whether it's ESPN, Fox, or even the NFL Network, if they're going to be honest, I hope they would do a graph. They talk about analytics, okay? Here's a call for all you good old boys who love analytics. Do a show on analytics on what color someone is and how much money they make, even in the NFL in 2016 and 17. Analytics, what color the quarterback is, how much money they make, if they're on a national championship team in college, or even a top 10 team in college, how much money do they make if they're white compared to how much money do they make if they're black? And that's in the National Football League. Big C, you can close it out.
And that's so true. When you look at Dallas last year, perfect example. Their starting quarterback didn't make $1 million. Their backup quarterback made well over $20 million.
Wow.
And we saw the complexion that Colin Kaepernick had to restructure his contract because Blaine Gabbert needed to make more because he started the season. And we saw him statistically where he was. Blaine Gabbert has been a pro as long as Cam Newton.
Yeah.
I believe 5 years in the NFL now, Dalton.
Yeah.
And he's only won 8 games as a starter.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's the NFL caliber talent that in 5 years you win 8 games as a starter. You started off your career as a starting quarterback. So when we look around at the inequality in the NFL, we saw Adrian Peterson just released, saying that, you know, you can get a running back a lot cheaper than him. Regardless of what he's done for the organization, he's not worth it anymore. But he had no problem paying Sam Bradford a new contract.
Yeah.
And Sam Bradford's making $20 million next year, Charlton. And this was as long as he played in the season in his entire career, but he got tired and had no productivity at the end of the season because he wasn't used to playing that many games.
Yeah.
So when we look around the league, Charlton, and we see it, as you spoke about, the inequality about what you pay players, and we talked about that with Russell Wilson, Colin Kaepernick, and Cam Newton.
Yeah.
That you had Brock Osweiler make more money than all 3 of those quarterbacks, Charlton, and all 3 of them started in Super Bowls over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Brock Osweiler was in a Super Bowl over the clipboard.
Yeah.
But those guys have started in Super Bowls,
Yeah.
Charlton, and yet the NFL felt that he was more valuable as a financial commodity than either one of those guys that have participated in a Super Bowl. So when you look at how the NFL has looked at African-American players over the years, is that you should always be paid less for being the best on the field.
Well, Big C.
That's how they look at it. I don't care how people see it.
Yeah.
You should always be paid less for being the best.
So why don't you hear, you know, they made this big issue about when back in the day Doug Williams won a Super Bowl for the Redskins. They beat the Denver Broncos. He had 5 touchdown passes in that game, and then he never saw another game, Big C, and they made such an issue about the black quarterback. So why don't they take that same analytics people that they love to bring in our analytics team I hope that they do that. If you're white, what's your worth in the NFL? If you're black, what's your worth? I mean, do that. Let the whole country see this league that's run by 75% African Americans on the field. If they did what Rosa Parks did when they realized that we want equal opportunity, equal pay, you know, she wouldn't give up her seat. All right? I'm just saying, at some point in time, you got to stop being a sycophant. You got to stop being a knucklehead. You at least got to ask the question and quit being taken advantage of, because it's a media thing. There's a media push to try to tell everybody, well, this guy's not worth it, and this guy is, and you just tell them 3 black guys that make the Super Bowl in a less than what Osweiler was getting, Big C, the last minute.
His greatest quarterback is Aaron Rodgers is being in the NFL. And everybody said in a one-game scenario they want Aaron Rodgers. Russell Wilson has been to more Super Bowls and makes less money.
Yeah.
And it's half the amount of time in the NFL.
Yeah.
Cam Newton makes less money and it's been to his
equal amount
in half the time in the NFL. Colin Kaepernick has been to an equal amount of Super Bowls as Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been to a Super Bowl in what, 8?
Yeah.
10 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Even Drew Brees, one of the greatest throwers in league history, hasn't been to a Super Bowl in 8 years.
Yeah.
Okay? So when you talk about these guys and how great they are, when was the last time they were in a Super Bowl? These are the things you got to look at.
Yeah.
When was the last time they were in a Super Bowl? When was the last time you brought home a championship? So you can always sell that them goods on a Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Give him $25 million and justify it. And, you know, as a quarterback, he is under 500 as a starter in the NFL.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Under 500.
Yeah.
And that's worth $25 million for one season.
Well, I guess, go ahead, see.
So I try to understand when you want to blast Colin Kaepernick because he had no supporting cast.
Yeah.
As a head coach, as a general manager, or even teammate. You blast him saying that he's washed up. Robert Griffin, you blast him. His win percentage as a starting quarterback in Washington is better than Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I know it.
Kirk Cousins has made more money in the NFL, and he was Robert Griffin's backup. You know that backup scenario there.
Yeah.
The white backup is worth more than the black starter.
And I hope.
This is not
Yeah.
a racist program.
It's just facts. It's analytics, Big C. It's just analytics. That's what you. Yeah. Why about Mel Kiper and Todd McShay do it? They're the experts in who should go who and who should pay who, Big C. Why don't they do the analytics on race and pay in the National Football League, the number 1 sports league in the United States of America, is 75% produced by black talent, but when it comes to being paid, Big C, people have an issue with that. And I want to get your last thought on what you're looking forward to coming up in this draft. Any other things that are happening out there? We're still looking for Peterson and Lamb, probably with the Seattle. Or who else might be in your mind, Big C, in the last minute?
Well, what I'm really looking at, Dalton, you know, in this week to come, is this weekend we're going to have the selection committee for March Madness, Dalton. The teams for the NCAA tournament. That's what I'm really looking forward to, you know. And you know, like tonight, you got North Carolina playing against Duke.
Yeah.
You know, who is the selection committee going to put in certain slots? Who are they going to move out of the wrong regions of the country, which they tend to get it wrong in that, but they try to put it together where they can get their top seeds where they want them to be. You know, you can have Villanova, most likely Gonzaga, as the number 1 seed. And I still think Kansas will get the number 1 seed in their region, even though they lost in their first round game today. I'd like to see Northwestern get into the tournament, y'all. It'll be the first time in school's history in the 77 years of the NCAA tournament that Northwestern gets in. But, you know, this just an exciting weekend for those college basketball fanatics. Every night, seems like every hour, you got a different game on this week and weekend talking. So just an exciting weekend. We know that free agency now meaning at a few benches always that first week.
Yeah.
And it seems like teams are desperate to go out there and get somebody who's going to save the organization. But it says you spoke about Jarvis. I'm going out there getting a salvage vehicle, saying that it's the best thing in the
Yeah.
It's like when you walk in, Jarvis, the dealer, the first thing they want to do is open the door because that new car smell is open.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When we're looking at then all of a sudden they got out here on the used car line.
Yeah.
You know, you can have one of these. I mean, you can still smell the cat that the guy was riding around in the car.
Yeah.
That's basically what you're getting off the scrap heap in the NFL.
Yeah.
Because if letting them go.
Yeah.
So the past team does not value that cast-off quarterback to say he was the guy that can take us to a championship. But the team that's out there that's saying that they're desperate and that guy is going to get us to the next level.
Yeah.
I've always tried to understand what does that team see that the current team did not see. Every now and then you find that diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
Kurt Warner.
Yeah.
You know, he did that when he was cast off by the Giants.
Yeah.
And went to Arizona. Peyton Manning had to leave Indianapolis and went to Denver.
Yeah.
You know, you had that with Brett Favre when he ended up in Minnesota. You know,
Yeah.
they were a game shy of getting to the Super Bowl trophy. But for the most part, every year in the NFL, there's 5 teams that desperately go out and seek somebody's cast-off trophy.
Yeah.
And there's 5 teams that end up being no better than what they were the year before.
Well, Big C, I tell you, you say it like nobody else. This is always Real Talk. I just want all the networks to please do something on the analytics teams that you guys all have now. Do something on equal pay and race in the NFL. Run by 75% black men when it comes to quarterbacks, equal pay and race. I wonder what the analytics will show because they're non-biased from what I understand. And speaking of non-biased, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide, follow Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 network in the United States of America. And also Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe according to Big C and them good old boys down south. We always want to tell you, there's never any excuse for domestic violence. No one should ever be assaulted. No woman should ever be grabbed by the crotch. If you see anyone going through that garbage, just call 911 so a woman doesn't have to deal with that on her own. As we always tell you on every program, not only do we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.